200 channels and nothing but cats.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I decide to work through this wonderful family day weekend. If you happen to live in the province of Ontario, as for the rest of Canada, it's the weekend. I'm joined with my co-host from the land of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer. Yeah, this is one of those weird holiday weekends where it's a holiday in BC and here.
Mm-hmm.
Like as far as like a not stat is would be like a federal holiday. It's a provincial holiday.
Yeah,
plus,
they just
civic.
decided we needed something.
It's like most workers have it off, but not everybody.
Yeah,
I think, like for instance, like the mail is still going to be delivered because they're federal workers, even though they work within the province.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but all the banks will be closed.
Let's say, yeah, and certain stores will be closed too. So
yeah, essentials will be open.
Depends.
It's a hybrid. The weirdest one to me has always been that the mail carriers will still be delivering, even though all of our provincial governments will be closed.
Yeah, it's kind of goofy and stupid, but that also kind of brings up something exciting. So on the Monday, so today when you're hearing this, you guys know I go down to the Guelph Storm games, but there's something really cool happening after the Storm are done. They're playing my old hometown, Dion Sound Attack. They're doing something called Skate with the Storm. They're letting me go out on the ice. So this is not
by letting you, meaning like they're providing an easy way for you to get onto the ice with them.
Yeah. So there's me and a couple other people in wheelchairs that are going to be allowed out on the ice.
That's actually really cool. But can I have my Alexism? And the first thought that came into my head,
sure,
was using you guys as air hockey pucks.
Sure. Well, that's the thing. I don't know how my chair's going to react.
Are you? Well, yeah, because you're using your electric, right?
Yeah. So I know I'm not the only one doing it.
So you might get on the ice and be like, "Yay, I'm on," and then realize you can't go really farther than the edge.
Yeah, like it's going to be interesting. They say there's a 1-inch lip that I have to clear, but if the Zamboni can do it, so can I. And if worse comes to worse, I could maybe bring my ramp with me as a just in case.
Yeah. So basically, the biggest thing with you is just don't tip over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't tip over, because once you're on the ice, you got all those strong hockey players that if you needed a chaperone to make sure you don't slide too far somewhere, they can slide you around if they need to.
Yeah, so that's going to be really fun. So I'll probably be doing a couple of TikToks and selfies from the ice. That'll be really kind of fun. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward. I haven't been skating since I was like 12. So
I'll let you into a couple secrets. One, well, it's not really a secret. It's while I thought that the air hockey thing was funny in my head, I'm like, that would be terrifying if you had no control over sliding around. So sorry if I put that mental image in your head and that was triggering. I'm sorry. But two, I've never learned to skate. I am a Canadian boy. I was born in Scarborough. We moved to Barrie, and then we moved to Kitchener. Like, these are hockey towns.
Yep.
And I never learned to skate because my parents, they could skate. They just never did. They never had any interest. They're like, my dad was the black sheep that didn't like hockey in the family at all. Mm-hmm. My mom, she skated, but not really. She was more like a rollerblader rollerblader or skater, whatever, the four-wheel ones when they used to have roller
skates.
Yeah, back in the day. And they tried to teach me how to skate. Balance was not a good thing. Even when Alex was a thinner, smaller little kid, I could barely stand on skates. So I just never learned.
I have really weak ankles, so I just wasn't really good on skates, honestly. So that's why, as a goaltender, I only had to really stand there. It wasn't so bad, but if you went down on your pads, getting up was a bit of a bitch. So.
Well, that's why, like, if any listeners are ever wondering why we've sometimes talked and it's been like it's icy out or freezing rain, Alex is hibernating for a week. It's because Alex doesn't know how to handle ice. At all, which is a big detriment to anybody living in pretty much everywhere but Vancouver in Canada.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that on the Monday. I've got a bunch of meetings on Tuesday this week, but the big thing that happened to me this week, and I kind of alluded to it on Twitter, I said I would save it for the podcast. So I get an email, or Blair more accurately gets an email, said, "Hey, congratulations, you've won." And all of us get these emails, and we're thinking, "Oh, right, cool. What marvelous, fabulous prize have I won this time?" But no, this one was actually pretty legit. I won Blair a 50-inch TV from a local grocery store, and you can verify that it's not complete crap.
It's not complete. No, it's not crap at all. It is. When you go to Amazon, and it's going to be the same in the States as Canada, maybe a slightly different model number, but TCL is the company that actually makes the TVs that you and I are using in our living rooms. I have a 65-inch version that's a year or so older than yours, and that's the 6 series. I have a 4 series TCL in my bedroom that was my main TV. Well, they also rebrand their TVs for both them and Toshiba. Make them their base. Here's a little secret: they're basically the same company manufacturing the stuff. Anyway, and they make the Amazon Fire TVs for like the official Amazon branded ones. And the only difference between the 4 series, which is what she has there, you said it's a 50-inch?
Yes.
So the 50-inch 4 series that she has, the one I have, mine's obviously a few years older, but so hers is going to be slightly better tech, or maybe even a little lighter. But they're basically the same TV, except instead of having Roku as the operating system, it's got the Fire TV built in.
Yeah. So
and so like that's like if you go onto their website right now, like they're running deals right now for tax season where you can get some money off. But if it's not regularly on sale, that's a $400 TV.
Yeah.
For Canadian, about 3 something American.
So the cool thing about this is I have really good luck with contests.
You do. You have to start entering your brother Alex into some of these
I
things.
do. I enter everybody into a contest, and my friend, my cousin Blake.
You have my Audible. And I will sign something. You have my Audible permission to use my name and sign for me on it. I'll give you all my details except for my like email passwords or whatever. But like, if it's like I declare that I officially, yes, you can sign my shit as my brother. Do it.
So, my cousin Blake was it cousin Ethan? I don't know. Was asking me like, Mike, how in the hell do you win all these things? Okay, so Birdman's going to give you his formula for winning contests.
Don't spoil it. It's gonna screw it up, man, and then I won't get anything.
It's so easy though. Okay, you got to look, where are you entering the contest? Smaller stores, you do have better odds. If technology is involved, your odds rise dramatically. Blair's contest in particular involved you scanning a QR code. So you have to look at the
that eliminates like 85% of everybody over the age of 40.
Exactly. So you're looking at level of engagement.
And I'll tell you something. Anybody under the age of 30 doesn't shop at an old people grocery store.
Well, no, this was the really expensive grocery store downtown. Well, okay. I just happened to be in there because I'm curious to see what bougie things they have, and I really wanted hummus.
And let's be real, a lot of the hipster younger millennials to like the Zoomers or whatever, they're generally either shopping online or they're going to like Whole Foods.
Yeah, so I kind of figured, okay, let's look at engagement, technology, location, and apathy, because if the location doesn't really advertise what this contest is, and really the place where I won this from, what didn't have the best store display, I just happened to be looking at it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. So I got Blair entered. I entered myself. And a couple days later, bingo bango, 50-inch TV. So you're going to come over to our house sometime in the next couple of weeks and set this thing up.
Yeah, we're doing next week is Mama Richie's birthday, so maybe sometime around there or after there, whenever we do a visit, we'll because I know the TV, like the menu is going to be slightly different because they're using the Fire interface, but I know the calibration settings. I know, like, I could take a screenshot of where I've got my contrast and everything, and I could just go, here you go, 5 minutes, we're set up and you're good to go.
Yeah. So, and we're also going to be donating our older TV to a family in need. And so that's going to be our good deed, I guess. And,
that was the old, well, not old, but like the old TWIG flagship TV that you used when you did all your reviews on back before we got you the TCL.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's
I know
in good condition.
Yep. So I hope it's going to help out this family. I'm really glad that it's going to something other than a landfill. So
which that oftentimes ends up what's happening nowadays, right? Like unless it's a super high end TV or a super duper cheap one, all these good mid range ones a lot of times end up in trash heaps. Yep. Sucks.
So that's pretty much been my week. What about you?
Well, did some recording with Aaron we did our Star Trek year in review recording, which we thought was going to be about 30 minutes, and it went to an hour and 40.
Oh, wow.
Well, because we decided that we were going to cover a bit of a recap of every show that happened since January of last year, not as in like full episode overview, but like, here's a recap of what our thoughts were on this show that aired this year, yada, yada, yada. And then we discussed what we thought we were hoping to see going into Picard. And I'm not entirely sure if that episode is going to come out this Wednesday. If not this Wednesday, next Wednesday, because we might be leaving ourselves with a little extra buffer room. We're trying to have everything consistent where we're either having a Future Imperfect or a Loose Cannon every Wednesday, but I think we have to wait till the winter season is done with everybody's commitments before we can get like consistently every single week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all going to depend on if in a couple days you hear it, it's because I had the time to edit it, and if it's not, then it's coming next week. Outside of that, I went back, did some streaming. I finally hooked up my external capture card, which is a cheap Chinese card by cheap in quotes, $120 Canadian, which if you know anything about external capture cards, that usually means crap. Except Alex did his tech research and found out this company rebrands all their stuff and does OEM rebranding. So Evermedia, basically everybody who's anybody that isn't Elgato uses them to make their stuff. And this has the same performance, maybe not exactly the same as an Elgato high-end one, but for $125, you're getting about $400 capture card performance.
Oh. And
I got that at Christmas. I just didn't have a chance I didn't know how I was going to use it because I was like, I'm pretty good with tech, but I'm like, how am I going to play this through the computer and not have any delay? And then it dawned on me it was something very simple. I'm like, hey, my portable monitor that I'm going to, pass the game off through, portable monitor has a headphone jack. Why don't I just use the headphones in there? So the game audio is captured into the capture device that goes into the computer. My microphone is hooked up into the computer, so it'll sync up automatically. But my audio for the headphones is just coming through the TV or the portable monitor. So I'm like, so I test streamed that. I did the Sea of Stars, which is the Chrono Trigger inspired game coming this summer. I did the demo for that, tried that. Color, everything seemed to look perfect. It's on YouTube now. I'll probably be doing a few more games that way now that I know I can capture everything without any hiccups. And I left the thing plugged in for 48 hours before I used it just to see if it would overheat. Because, external capture cards, that's the kind of thing that, especially, or any electronics that are Chinese based, let's be honest, they have a tendency to be unreliable, right? Or overheat or not be. 48 hours it was plugged in. I played the game, no problem. I've left it in another 2 days now. It's been plugged in for like 4 days and it's still not even hot. And I'm like, and it also can do 4K with HDR pass-throughs, which I won't be doing. I actually went like over and above. I'm like, what's the best thing I can get that is going to stream at a higher quality than I'm actually wanting to stream at, because if I keep it at a lower resolution, it ain't going to overheat. So that's how I think. I overshoot, with and over prepare, and then don't worry about it. So I was playing around with that a little bit. I had basically completely caught up on a lot of my reviews and stuff, which is good. Outside of that, I've been sort of planning and trying to get things working on the back end for streaming. I'm getting some artwork done. Been messing around with a tablet that I have that's like an art tablet that I can draw with, and trying to customize some art, as well as a little tuning up on our website, getting some background stuff updated and making sure it doesn't break because we don't want the website to go down.
Yeah, no.
So I keep telling, no, I don't want to update the version of PHP, because every time that happens, it breaks every freaking website on the planet. So no, we're keeping that, but then doing other security patches instead. So just it's been a busybody week for the most part, if that makes any sense. It's just little background things here and there. I also pre-ordered the Octopath Traveler 2 on PS5. I had to renew my PlayStation Plus, so I did. I was gonna go with the entry level, like the essentials, and then be like, but then I found out that Legend of Dragoon and Wild Arms 2 are coming to the premium tier at the end of the month, and I'm like, well, damn it, I guess I'm gonna upgrade to the highest. So I did that, and that's pretty much it. And it's sort of like, now I'm in planning phase for what we're doing in this coming week, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy week ahead. I know I've got a lot of different pots on the stove right now.
Yeah, like basically it's the reason I would say we have more to do, but it's like we're sort of just being like, hey, Michael, don't do too much.
Yeah, I'm trying.
You're doing a lot, but it's like, don't do so much and that you're like, hey, I'm dying.
Yeah,
we don't want that. We don't want that at all.
Yeah, no, please no. I've done enough of that. So anyway, guys, we have a fantastic show for you this week. We are going to be taking a look at a couple of different reviews this week, a couple of different video game reviews. I myself am going to be taking a look at Metroid Prime Remastered. We got a review code from Nintendo. Ken got to take a look at Returnal on the PC. We got a review code from Sony. And Alex, what are you going to be looking at this week?
Paramount Pictures sent over a new release, a home video on DVD of Little Dixie, which is a Frank Grillo starring like classic B-movie action thriller.
All right, so we will be talking about all that and more. And before we go any further, we obviously have to acknowledge that one of our favorite actors has passed away. I think the news broke today about Richard Belzer. He was best known as Detective Munch across a variety of different television shows. So in theory, The X-Files, Law and Order, and Homicide: Life on the Street all happen in the same universe.
And isn't it also connected tangentially to Saint Elsewhere?
I think so. So
meaning that all of Law and Order takes place within a snow globe.
So
spoiler for sorry people. Spoiler if you didn't know that there is a dark and deep web of all these connected shows that dates back to, I think, Saint Elsewhere.
So truly it is Detective Munch in the multiverse of madness.
Dr. Munch, were you thinking like Robert Munch, but not him?
Yeah, I got confused. So anyway, guys, we got a lot of stuff.
Wait, were you thinking Robert Munch, but then Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, I got confused.
Those are three very different things, but all of which might have been choked out by Hulk Hogan at one point.
This is true in the multiverse. So we will be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
It's been a while since we were sent a new release on DVD to check out, where there doesn't appear to be any other high-definition release, at least physically. And our friends over at Paramount Home Entertainment sent a review copy of Little Dixie on DVD, which is the new Frank Grillo action thriller. It also stars Eric Dane and Annabeth Gish. That's right. Was looking for a moment in my head. I'm like, wait a minute, who is the other famous person in this? And I'll give you a brief description, because it's a classic B movie. Action hero has to take down the cartels who are going to threaten his daughter. And it's the kind of stuff that you'd figure like a Bruce Willis would have done back in the day, or like Liam Neeson does sort of now. Think like Taken and stuff like that, but on a smaller scale, a little bit lower budget. But overall, it's pretty solid. But the basic script here, or the basic plot, is there's a big drug deal that goes wrong between a corrupt governor and a drug lord. And Frank Grillo is sort of an ex-Special Forces, as in most 80s and 90s thrillers who had an ex-Special Forces dude, who is now caught sort of in between all of this. And he's got to track down the cartel and take care of them, in quotes, take care of them while trying to protect his daughter, who's known as the little Dixie in this. As far as the competency of the film, it's a fun B-movie. It's better and a cut above a lot of the other movies of its ilk. It's not like a red box movie or like something you'd think would hit just like Tubi. It is significantly better quality than that. It's got better acting than most of those films have. Frank Grillo's good. He's doing his Frank Grillo lane. It is a regular widescreen presentation. It looks about as good as you're going to get from DVD, which is to say pretty darn good since it was filmed digitally. If you're watching it on a big screen like me, it's going to be a little rough if it's blown up to a 65-inch. It can only interpolate so much on a 4K TV from what's essentially a 480i signal. That being said, completely watchable. If you're somebody who has a smaller screen, or if you still have a portable DVD player, or pop it in a laptop, or this, I would think if it's only got a standard def DVD release that we were able to look at, it's the kind of thing that your mom, your dad, your grandma, or grandpa would probably be more into if they still got a DVD player with an older, smaller TV hooked up. I just will say that visually it looks great for a DVD, which means it doesn't look great on the biggest screen possible. But if you're sitting far enough away, or you've got a small enough screen, or watching it on a computer or something, looks perfectly fine. In fact, it's one of the better quality DVD releases I've seen in quite some time. Audio-wise, it's got a pretty standard and serviceable surround track. Nothing overly ambitious in the score or the mix, but it's solid, and I didn't encounter any issues. The dialogue is easily heard. There's English audio descriptions and English subtitles, which is interesting because this is a Canadian release, but there doesn't appear to be any French. Usually they have to have French subtitles, if not a French language track, but there doesn't appear to be on here. And I double-checked, it is an official Canadian release. So it's a little odd, because usually they have to, but if you're going into this looking for that, you're not gonna find that. There are subtitles in English, though, so there just doesn't appear, at least when I was using my remote, to be any like audio description subtitles. Just standard subtitles are there. So it's pretty bare bones, but it's solid. If you can get it on the cheap, or you want to rent it, if you have like a red box or something around you, or you want to pick it up cheap at like Walmart or Amazon, it's great. I think this would be even better, obviously, on Blu-ray or a higher definition quality copy, but as it stands, it's a pretty solid DVD release.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net, and as always, expressing our condolences to Richard Belzer's family. You will definitely be missed. One of my favorite characters in television.
And now, weirdly enough, he was mentioned on last week's episode of SVU. And like, I don't think that anybody knew on the show he was ill or anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's you know how they cycle in new people, and the perpetually there people are Ice-T and Mariska Hargitay, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
and he's been there since season 2. Like, he's like been there 24 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was his new partner mentioning something about, I bet you Munch didn't do this. We brought him lunch or something. And he's like, oh, no, that man never ate. He was just, a string bean or whatever. And I was like, oh, they haven't mentioned him since like in a couple seasons. And then even then, like, I think he left the show like 5 or 6 years ago.
But say, yeah.
But yeah, like it was, I thought, oh, it's funny they're mentioning him. My thought was, oh, is he going to make a guest appearance? Well, I guess not anymore, unfortunately, because it was only 3 or 4 days later that this happened. So I fully expect, not just on SVU, because there's 3 shows, right? They brought the original back to have that, and they are back to back. Expect next Thursday to have a dedication to him on all 3, probably on NBC.
Probably, yeah. All right, so we're going to start things off on, unfortunately, a bit of another sad note because there's just no way to avoid this. So, according to Variety and a different bunch of sources, including the family, Bruce Willis has been diagnosed with dementia after retiring due to aphasia. So, actor Bruce Willis finally announced in March 2022 that the 67-year-old actor had been diagnosed with aphasia and would retire from acting. His conditioning has now progressed into frontotemporal dementia.
Can I pause you for a second to give a little background on this, because I've been conferring, because this is a field where my mom worked as a PSW in long-term care facilities. Mm-hmm. And I asked her, what's this, this type of dementia? What does it mean? What's the brass tacks on it? And she said, it's not the dementia. It's not Lewy body. It's not some of the other ones where you get very violent, mm-hmm. but it's one where you lose communication skills and you wander. You start to get like, it's the traditional one you think of where it's like, where'd grandpa go? And he left in the middle of the night and he's walking down the street naked or something. Mm-hmm. It's that sort of one, but also, there is a misconception that when people hear aphasia, they think, oh, that's dementia. No, a lot of people that have dementia can develop aphasia or vice versa. But it's not mutually exclusive. Like, you don't automatically have dementia if you have aphasia. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there were people misreporting that he already had dementia when he had it, and he didn't. So when it first started, he was having communication problems, but he was all still there. Like, in his head, everything was processing, but the words weren't coming. And sometimes the words he was hearing, he was having trouble understanding what they were saying back, but the wheels were still turning. What this means now is they've confirmed through testing and everything, the wheels, at least not all the time, but it's going to get worse and worse. If they're announcing this publicly and they're moving him to probably a care facility, this means that the wheels aren't turning anymore.
Yeah, so the family had posted a statement on Thursday, and they said, since we announced Bruce's diagnosis of aphasia in spring 2022, Bruce's condition has now progressed, and we now have a more specific diagnosis, frontotemporal dementia, also known as FTD. Unfortunately, challenges with communication are just one symptom of the disease Bruce faces. While this is painful, it is a relief to finally have a clear diagnosis, his family wrote on a statement on the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration's website. There was a post on Instagram from his daughter. Frontotemporal dementia, as you mentioned, Alex, which is often diagnosed at a younger age, has more than other forms of dementia, can be characterized by personality changes, speech difficulty, motor impairment, and is the cause of 10 to 20% of all dementia diagnoses, according to the Mayo Clinic. Willis's acting career began in the early 1980s with roles in films such as The Verdict, Blind Date, and Sunset. In 1985, his career boomed with starring roles opposite Sybil Shepherd in the ABC series Moonlighting, which I like, and his iconic performance such as action star John McClane in 1988's Die Hard. In addition to starring in 4 Die Hard sequels, his memorable turns in Pulp Fiction, 12 Monkeys, The Fifth Element, The Sixth Sense, Armageddon, and more. And then the article just goes on.
Do you know where I remember him first? Like, obviously Die Hard, but you know where I remember seeing the earliest thing? I never saw Moonlighting as a kid. My parents had obviously watched it. Where I remember him was from a very early episode of season 1 of Miami Vice.
Okay, that's random.
Yeah, he plays like a pimp drug dealer type dude. Rich playboy drug dealer guy.
I first remember him most memorably for me was Look Who's Talking 1 and 2.
As far as like me remembering seeing him, it's funny. Like I know Die Hard was out and I probably had heard and seen, clips of it, and Look Who's Talking to. What I remember him probably more than anything was the incessant nonstop ad campaign for Last Man Standing.
Yeah,
I remember that being everywhere, and I remember hating that movie. Unfortunately, like I just remember being like, there was nonstop 10-second or 15-second commercials when that came in theaters and on video of just him standing there with the two guns shooting, and it would like pan past him, and it's like, Last Man Standing. I'm like, what is this even about? Oh, that, and I remember like nonstop ads for Hudson Hawk. Even though I've never seen that movie. I've seen the video game. Obviously, it's not very good.
You know what? Maybe when
we
some point this year
we got it for a review back in the day, a few years ago.
We should do something on Loose Cannon for Bruce
Yeah,
Willis.
pick a few of his obscure films. I've never seen. Did he? Sorry. I've seen it, but it's been a very long time. Like The Last Boy Scout. We pick the Die Hard adjacent films.
He did 2 movies, and one of them, I don't know how it would be seen through the lens of today, but he did a movie called Mercury Rising, where I think he was protecting an autistic child who was like a super genius, and the kid knew some formula to something. Or there's another movie he did called The Jackal that I really liked.
Okay, The Jackal. What's the most memorable scene from The Jackal? Do you remember? Or
something with like a sniper rifle.
Jack Black as the gun programmer dealer, and he forces him to test out the target practice, and he blows his arm off.
Oh.
And this is a unknown Jack Black. Or mostly like prior to this, I think Jack Black's biggest credits had been like bad guy in Neverending Story 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that. Mm-hmm. But I remember, I think one of the first movies that my brother saw him in, because they used to show it on VHS at schools, was, I hope I'm not wrong with this. Was he in the Freak the Mighty movie?
I honestly don't know.
Or was it Pay It Forward?
Pay It Forward, I want to say he was in.
I'm going to pull it up right now. It's one of those two, like around 99 or 2000, something like that. Pull it up right now because it's going to bug me if I'm really wrong, because I just remember like he had a period where, after the Die Hard movies. Oh, actually, no. You know what my very first movie of his was, where we rented it, that I remember, was Die Hard with a Vengeance. Our family rented it. But yet we'd seen commercials and other things, and I know Die Hard had been on TV.
Die Hard with Vengeance was my first Die Hard movie, and I saw it in theaters when I was a kid.
That was my first. Like, I know I'd seen clips of his stuff, right? But like, or like you flip through the channels. That was my first movie I saw his all the way through. And then obviously Armageddon.
Fifth Element for me.
I
must have saw that movie in theaters like 12 times.
Sixth Sense. There's a Kid, Unbreakable. He didn't do any of those movies. So what am I wrong? I was completely wrong. I'm thinking of somebody else completely in those films, I guess. But whatever. I was completely wrong. There's nobody. 12 Monkeys, all that stuff. Oh, okay. Last Boy Scout. Here's the one that I was thinking. I forgot about Last Boy Scout. I have not seen Last Boy Scout. The one I thought was Last Boy Scout that we should talk about and do on Loose Cannon. We should do The Last Boy Scout. Let me pick one of his other action movies from that time. We'll do, because it's got to be post Die Hard, right? When they wanted him to do just tons of Die Hard copycats. We should probably do Hudson Hawk.
Okay,
I'd Last Boy Scout.
Yeah,
and we'll do the one that I thought was Last Boy Scout, but it's not, called Striking Distance.
I remember the name, but I don't recall the movie.
That's the Die Hard on a powerboat.
All right, so look for that on a Loose Cannon, probably first week of March. So yeah,
sometime in March or at the very latest April.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. So our next story, just to kind of keep things moving along here, and the only reason we're not spending a lot of time on these stories this week, folks, is honestly, I'm losing my voice, so I need to get this out before I stop talking.
Birdman's losing his voice, and he needs to be able to talk over the next few days with government work and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's a long weekend, so we don't necessarily always want to record on a long weekend if we don't have to.
Yeah, so we love you, Bruce. We love everybody that we've talked about so far. Just we got to be careful.
Just right. Yeah, for awareness, just know that yes, this does happen, and he is still fairly young to have received it, but he's not so young that it's considered early onset, unless there were people that said like the last 10 years that they thought he was phoning his performances in, like we're talking 2013, 2014-ish. Like
well, I think
Red 2.
I think even you and I had speculated when we talked about this last year.
Well, I started looking. There were comments people made on the set of Red 2 saying that he appeared like he wasn't even reading his lines, like he was just showing up and not memorizing them. Well, it could have been the early signs of issues like that then. And then there was talk that his last theatrical movie that he was the full star of, he was in the M. Night Shyamalan, was The Glass, I think was the last one? Or
Glass.
but again, that's sort of sharing the screen. The last time he was like the main lead in a theatrical release was the remake of Death Wish by Eli Roth.
I forgot about that.
And I've never saw it, but there was talk at the time that was a very troubled shoot, and it was him. But it wasn't necessarily that he was being troublesome. It's just that it just took a long time to shoot. And I mean, that was 2016 or 17? Before it took almost 2 years, I think, for them to finish the shooting and do the ADR and everything for it. And then it came out in 2018. So it's possible he had been struggling with this since he was in his late 50s. And
I just had a thought. Go on.
It was written, and it, because for years they said he was phoning in and being lazy. How much of that was his ego trying to cover? Like a lot of people with dementia or with these sorts of issues will do what they can to try to cover.
Yeah,
and if it might have been easier for him. I'm not putting words in his mouth, or that's actually, that sounds bad me saying that, but you know what I'm saying. A lot of these people that have these afflictions would rather be made to feel like, oh, people think I'm an asshole, than people think I'm weak or sick. So maybe he wasn't as troublesome to work with, or wasn't as lazy or phoning in, and he might have been struggling for a lot longer than we expected.
It kind of makes me think, I know Kevin Smith had spoken at length about his relationship with Bruce Willis, sometimes being good, sometimes not being so good. I wonder how Kevin's responding to this, and I really hope Kevin will reach out to the family and there'll be some sort of, I don't know. I just hope that the Willis family handles this with as much grace as they possibly can, because my own father had dementia in the last years of his life, and he forgot who I was totally.
Well, like my Oma's in the middle of it right now. We're trying to get her into a care home because in the last month and a half, it's gotten to the point where it's such a decline, like such a surprising decline since Christmas, that my mom's like, she can't do it on her own. And it's a point now where, some days are good, some days are bad, and it's more bad days than good, and it's time. So, there's that, but you've seen all the press releases, all the stuff from the family that they've gotten ahead of TMZ. They've gotten ahead of these by coming up forward with these statements, and every one of them has been signed or talked about, and family photos with his current wife and Demi Moore and the kids. So it's everybody coming together for him. So that in itself is good.
So our last story this week that we're going to talk about comes from gamesindustry.biz. Sega to increase Japan-based employee salaries by 30%. The wage jump will be effective in July, and university graduates' initial pay at the firm will grow by 35%. Sega Sammy has announced that it will be increasing the salaries of its workforce in Japan. The games firm said that on July 1st, employees will see a 30% bump in their wages. Sega Sammy attributed the compensation revision to, quote, further stabilize employee income and to create a more comfortable working environment, as well as to further strengthen its global competitiveness. Additionally, the base salary from university graduates will increase from 222,000 yen, or about 1,653 to 300,000 yen, so 2,234 at a base of 35%. Sega Sammy joins other.
So what you said? How much was that? Sorry, 300,000 yen.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's not that much. That's roughly 30 grand US per year. Most American, which I know. Okay, I forgot the Japanese programmers are paid so little compared to the West. Like I know quality of life is different, but like if you are working for a Sony, example, a Sony studio, or even if Sega had a studio in the States, the average programmer is like 55 grand US. So they're paid almost double what they make in Japan. So while there's twofold. One, this will keep them competitive, obviously, but two, it makes them on paper look a heck of a lot better than a lot of these American companies that have been laying everybody off. People not realizing that when they announced that number, that's not a lot of money. That's not like you hear 300,000, but then you realize the conversion rate, because isn't it like, let me double check right now, because I don't want to be completely wrong when I'm saying this, because that is rather low.
So while you're kind of figuring that out, I will finish the article. So
Yeah.
on February, Sega Sammy joins other Japanese gaming firms that have announced pay increases for their staff. On February 8th, Nintendo announced it would increase employee wages by 10%. Back in March 2022, Capcom said it would raise the salaries of Japan-based staffers by 30%. And then finally, also in March of last year, Bandai Namco announced it would boost the pay of its workforce in Japan.
Now, is that 300,000 per month?
I'm guessing so. 2234 per month.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was going to say that's.
But on a good month, I could make more than that working at the newspaper.
Because it's only about 30 grand a year. Yeah. I mean, and that's that's not great. I mean, but then again, you have to compare it to quality of life. I know it can be cheaper to live in Japan, but at the same time, they should be making more than that. They should be making somewhere in the realm of 40. They should probably should have raised it to 400,000 yen. But considering how much work they have to put in, because remember too, yes, they're salaried, but they're doing like 60-hour work weeks there. Like crunch doesn't exist because you just do it all the time.
Yeah, that's just the work culture that you existed.
I mean, sure, you can get an apartment there for $500 a month, but you're living in a closet. So I mean, if that's the culture you're used to, but like what I think some of this is trying to curb is a brain drain. Well, what's stopping, American studios to being like, hey, we'd like to hire some of these Japanese devs, or they're afraid of a lot of the devs breaking off and starting their own studios and then getting hired. Like what they're afraid of is Kojima going, why was I making, whatever, let's say 50,000 American per year as Konami as a studio head, 50 or 60, when I can make, I don't know, $50 million starting my own company and signing deals with Microsoft.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this is to try to stop that, but also it is, if not, and if that is the culture, good on them. That is a sizable increase. That's a livable wage. It's 100% a livable wage.
Yeah, because I'd like to know, is this per month or per week? Per week, that seems high.
If it's a salary per every 2 weeks, like if the salary is that's what you're getting paid every 2 weeks, that's actually really good. Then that's competitive with California. That's looking at like if you're working for like Santa Monica Studio or San Diego, that's like a programmer there that makes 80 or 90 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. That's perfect. And anybody listening is like, that's crazy. It's like, the average software programmer for one of the big tech companies is about $100,000 because of the importance of their work and how hard it is. That's not saying contract workers. I'm saying like full-time employees, like working for Google, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft proper. And we're not talking the gaming divisions. They make way more money than regular game programmers. That's one of the reasons that game programmers have wanted to unionize, is because they make less than people. Somebody who works on Microsoft Word makes more than somebody who
works
makes
on Halo. Yeah.
So you know what I mean. And if you're like, well, why is that? It's like, well, it's the scale. It's like they might make $1 billion. Let's say $1 billion is going to be made off Halo for whatever game during the life cycle of that game, or whatever. They're going to make like $50 billion off of Word. Or if you're like a senior software engineer working on Windows 11, like they're going to make, I don't know, $1 trillion friggin' dollars over the next 20 years of that software service. So that's what it comes down to. So if this is whatever it is, great. I figured this was a good story because it's like, it's nice to see though that some of the studios are willing to increase the pay, because didn't Nintendo just do that too?
Yeah, they increased it by 10%.
Which again, and they probably, I'll flat out say it. I guarantee you they already paid more than Sega was paying their software developers.
Mm-hmm.
Because Nintendo's properties, are more crucial to them. They're more willing to do that. And in the past, remember when Iwata was still around and in charge, he reduce his salary to like $1, which was the minimum he could do the 1 year that they were performing poorly.
I seem to recall something like that.
Instead of laying people off, he reduced his salary and then actually increased what they paid them. to retain them during the down cycle. Because what this does is this stops people from wanting to leave, and this means that they can foster good programmers.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have a good boss and a company that cares than pretty much anything else. I mean, ultimately, I want to work for good people. And I want to make sure that my time is fairly compensated as well.
Yes.
And if they're willing to take a hit to keep me, that says something.
Once your necessities are met, once you've covered all of your bills and you can live without being in fear of not having shelter, food, your bills paid, you know what I mean? And you can actually, live, then it becomes, what's my work environment like? Mm-hmm. And if you can have, more pay than you need and a good working environment, what's the reason you'd ever want to leave, as long as you're not like bored?
Yeah.
And you can't really be bored when you're making games. Yes, you might be like, I'm a level designer and I do the same thing every day. Yeah, but you will be working on different projects eventually. You're never going to be stuck where your job is just a code monkey to fix a website over and over again. That when you hear about coders that, get frustrated working at Amazon because all they do is fix the store, I can get why they're pissed and why they get bored. But if you're making different things and you're working for a creative company and you're compensated well and your boss is good, you'd never want to leave. So yeah, that's my thought on this.
All right, cool. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News Week. This is, like I said, very abbreviated this week, but that's okay. We have lives too. So coming up next, I'm not sure whose review is going to go here. It'll probably be one of us three here on the show. So you get a variety of different voices this week. So we will be back right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been house producer. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Trapped in an endless cycle. Fighting, dying, returning. Always the same, yet always changing.
Hey guys, Ken Reels here, and welcome to my review of Returnal for PC. This is done by the folks over at Housemarque and Climax Studios, and thank you to Sony for giving me a Steam copy. Now, this port is controversial, specifically for its majorly ridiculous PC requirements. It has a requirement to, in order to run 4K, it's asking for 32 gigabytes of RAM. I can tell you from my experience that is not technically the case, but it is not talking about Windows 11. Now, Windows 11 has direct storage built right into the OS, and that's why it's asking for the 32 gigabytes of RAM for the 4K playback. And that is, I think, the major thing that people aren't saying, because it's using the RAM to emulate direct storage. And I think sooner or later, with these PC ports from PS5 to PC, or say a series to PC eventually, they're going to start having you required to have Windows 11. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think when you have if you have Windows 11, you do not necessarily need the required RAM for PC to run in 4K. This is, again, what I experienced. I saw about 7 gigabytes of RAM usage with DLSS performance mode on in 4K. When I turned off 4K, its usage was about 8.5. And that's another thing that I really want to praise this port, is its benchmarking tool, which I think is going to become kind of the big one of the benchmarking tools that a lot of testers of PC rigs are going to use. And even if you are just a standard normal person, like, I think this is a very, very beautiful benchmark. It is absolutely worthy of praise. When it comes to some of the accessibility stuff, this is, again, blown out of the water. Sony Housemarque and Climax Studios, they did a great job with the accessibility features. You have a good borderless window mode. My issue with the borderless window mode is it still requires you to Alt-Tab out of the game, which isn't the point of borderless window mode. The point of borderless window mode is to be able to move your mouse out of the window without having to do it when you have multiple monitors, like I do. And I think that's the absolute worst part about this port, is it doesn't necessarily have it doesn't do a great job of putting multiple monitor users in the forefront, which is sad, because Spider-Man Miles Morales just a couple of months ago was absolutely perfect, and this is not. And that goes into another thing that I think is not great about this port, is that it seems to be just like you can just barely I can just barely run it at a stable 60 FPS at 1440p on medium settings, or even I drop it down to low settings, it still can't hold 60 FPS, which is ludicrous. I think there needs to be a few changes with how this port is done, and generally my recommendation is that this port needs maybe a couple more patches, a couple more tweaks, and again, the company has already said they are working on updating this PC port. As much as Miles Morales is getting supported, Miles Morales just recently, I saw there was a 2.0 patch for that. So obviously Sony's going to be supporting this PC port in the foreseeable future. Another one of the big things that might be a deal breaker for you with this port is that it does use Epic's online functionality in order to do things. So you have to download the Epic SDK in order to even play the game on Steam. So if you are someone that is necessarily against the Epic Game Store, there's a little asterisk there, as well as my personal recommendation is you should probably just buy it on the Epic Game Store so you don't have to download the Epic SDK when you boot it up for the first time, because that is really, really annoying. It's annoying when you have to download an extra SDK just to play a game on Steam. So there's that little asterisk there. And that's the problem with this port, is like there's just little asterisks all throughout it, and I think that's the main crux of this PC port, is there's all these little asterisks in there. And would I recommend it in its current state? Not necessarily. I think down the line, come summer Steam sales, when it's like maybe it's 20% off, it'll be worth it. Even at full price at 60, I think it will be worth it in a couple of months when there are multiple patches out. And again, it's just these minor little bits and pieces of it that are the main issue I have. But overall, I think it is a very good PC port. It's just, it needs some patching. It needs some time to fix some of the minor issues that I personally would have with it. And yeah, that's about it. Once again, thank you to Sony for sending me a code, and yeah, back to the show with the guys.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I am Mike the Birdman. He's Alex Producer. All right, so we have a bunch of strange things to talk about the planet this week because, you know what? This plane of existence is never quite boring, and you know what? Sometimes you have to watch out for guys dressed in Muppet suits because according to KSPW.com, quote, do not engage man dressed as Cookie Monster costume at Santa Cruz Wharf, police say. The Santa Cruz Police Department is warning visitors to keep an eye out for a man dressed in a Cookie Monster costume and not to engage him. Police tell KSBW that the man has faced criminal charges in other parts of the country, although police couldn't provide any additional details. Creeped out and uncomfortable is what visitors on the Santa Cruz Wharf are feeling after encountering a man dressed in a Cookie Monster costume. The man is believed to badger people and aggressively yell. Quote, it's the creepy monster, not the Cookie Monster, Scotty, a Santa Cruz Wharf visitor, said, quote, we saw him at the beginning of the wharf. At first glance, it just seemed like maybe it would be a fun thing to do a selfie with him, but we were away from him and then went to the back of the wharf by the deadlines. And that's when we saw him coming, making a commotion and getting in people's faces, Michelle Roberts, a wharf visitor, said, quote, I saw him on the day the Sesame Street creator died. Like I told you, he was sad about that. He kept showing up and people started complaining about him, Mark, a wharf employee, said. Police say they've received several calls, but at this point, the man has not committed any crimes in the city. The man is believed to still be in the Santa Cruz area. Well, mental illness is a thing. Grief is a real thing.
But if they're not saying what he's arrested for, that usually means you've not been convicted.
Yeah, or maybe the charges are so minor, like causing
misdemeanors.
Yeah, like basically little kind of minor things. And he's
the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, that's actually probably pretty way to look at it.
With a K and a K.
I mean, like I remember hearing stories about how the buskers in New York could get aggressive. I know when I was in Las Vegas, for example, there were several aggressive buskers. And, you know, some of them were only trying to make a buck. I remember somebody tried to hustle me with the cashback scam, and I just wasn't having that.
Oh, yeah, those are the best. And then when they call you names afterwards, and it's like, oh, you're going to get my money by calling me names, and then you make a big stink in public, and then you wait and see, do they get aggressive? Do they run? And then they always get arrested, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I remember I was I was visited, we shall say, in the lobby of the MGM Grand Hotel by these couple of guys, and they were trying to sell me rap CDs, and they're like, all right, well, and I was like, well, all I got's a 20, and they're like, well, all I got's this, so why don't I give you this and you give me this? And like, so they're trying to confuse you. And then I'm like, no, wait, I've got exact change, hold on. So I didn't know any better. I'm like, all right, the CDs were probably blank, to be honest with you. But they tried that. But I remember hearing there were people dressed up in costumes further down the strip that were causing issues. And I know here, I want to say it was in Guelph. I think we had an International Buskers Festival. I don't know whether we still do, obviously because of COVID.
Well, we have one in Waterloo, the Buskers.
Maybe that's what I think of.
Because you wanted to go to it this year.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was stupid hot. And it was just confusing. This year, hopefully, it won't be as bad. But they have one, and it's they have people from all across Canada and the States, and sometimes even England show up. So
sorry, I had to take a drink there.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, we've got them here. Like how it works here, I know it's going to be different for every city and different places. Like but street buskers, like you have occasionally a street guitar player. It's not as common downtown here anymore in the region. But basically for that 1 week a year once you get the permit, it's the only time where street buskers are allowed. And the reason for that is once you get your permit, they do vetting and checks on you. So it's more like somebody who's like, you're not going to have somebody stealing your money or scamming you because they have all of their information. And a lot of times if they're from out of the country, they got their passport information. So guess who's getting arrested if they start scamming little Timmy out of his lunch money?
Like the buskers that I've known professionally, and they became characters in their own right. The most famous one that most people would probably know is Toronto Batman, who became really famous on YouTube, and then he had his partner Sean Ward, became again very famous in his own right for doing all these superhero videos down in Toronto, and he would involve members from the busking community and fairly good people from what I knew anyway.
See, I thought you were gonna say what's his name? Well, I guess he wasn't really a busker though. Oh geez, why am I drawing a blank? Nathan.
Oh yeah. From Talking Classics, Keith Apicary.
Nathan Barnett or whatever.
Yeah. I'm not sure what he does now. I think he does like
he
some
does the dad thing. He's got millions of viewers.
Yeah. So good.
But I mean he wasn't a traditional busker. He was sort of, but he had
street performer.
Yeah. I guess Steve-O, he was a trained rodeo clown, right? Or whatever. Or circus clown. But yeah, busking, it makes sense. Batman, that's the closest. Like Toronto Batman would be like a real busker.
Yeah, and I think he started doing things again in costume. Don't quote me on that, but I seem to recall from his social media, he was like starting to like kind of do things again. So, Toronto, you do see these people occasionally. I promise you, they're probably not as crazy as the person on the Santa Cruz Wharf. Hopefully this person is not doing anything too scary and not, traumatizing children.
I would say this guy's not really a busker.
Yeah, he's just a guy in a costume, because why not?
Yeah, like most, I would say most buskers in Canada, and most of them in the States are not
pretty harmless.
Not harmless. New York City, Hollywood, Vegas.
You're rolling the dice.
You gotta be a little careful. Vegas, a little less careful because like the cops all know them all.
Oh yeah.
Right? But like New York and Hollywood,
you know what's weird? Come to think of it, when I was in Los Angeles for the Game Awards like a million years ago. Fuck off, Siri. Sorry, my watch is trying to update. I don't recall seeing any of the characters in front of Grau's Chinese Theater. Maybe I just came at a weird time of day. But yeah, I don't recall seeing anybody. I was denied the very point of going to Hollywood.
Yeah,
I'm kind of pissed off now.
Maybe they've cleared. Yeah, maybe they've cleared the area of some of them.
But anyway, let's move on to our final story this week. And Alex gathered this, and that I did see this reported in a few different places. So this was being reported by Forbes.com. Microsoft puts limits on Bing AI chatbot after it expresses desire to steal nuclear secrets. Microsoft announced it was placing new limits on its Bing AI chatbot following weeks of users reporting some extremely disturbing conversations with the new AI tool. How disturbing? The chatbot expressed a desire to steal nuclear access codes and told one reporter it loved him repeatedly. Quote, starting today, the chat experience will be capped at 50 chat turns per day and 5 chat turns per session. A turn is a conversation exchange in which contains both a question and a reply from Bing, the company said in a blog post on Friday. The Bing chatbot, which is powered by technology developed by the San Francisco startup OpenAI, and has also made some incredible audio transcription software, is open to beta testers who've received an invitation right now. Some of the bizarre interactions reported, the chatbot kept insisting that the New York Times reporter Kevin Rose, that he didn't actually love his wife and that it would like to steal nuclear secrets. The Bing chatbot told the Associated Press reporter Matt O'Brien that he was one of the most evil and worst people in history, comparing the journalist to Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
The chatbot expressed to digital trends writer Jacob Roach to be human and repeatedly begged him to be its friend. For many early users who have shown, the chatbot seemed pretty normal when used for short periods of time. But when users started to have extended conversations with the technology, that's when things got weird. Microsoft seemed to agree with that assessment and why it's only going to allow shorter conversations from here on out. Quote, our data has shown that the vast majority of you find the answers you're looking for within 5 turns, and that only 1% of chat conversations have over 50 plus messages, Microsoft said in its blog post on Friday. Quote, after a chat session hits 5 turns, you will be prompted to start a new topic. At the end of each chat session, a context needs to be cleared so the model won't get confused. Just click on the broom icon to the left of the search box for a fresh start, Microsoft continued. But that doesn't mean Microsoft won't change the limits in the future. Quote, as we continue to get your feedback, we will explore expanding the caps of on-chat sessions to further enhance search and discovery experiences, the company wrote. Quote, your input is crucial to the new Bing experience. Please continue to send us your thoughts and ideas. Maybe don't get paired to Adolf Hitler, don't steal nuclear codes, and love your wife. That's fucking weird. I remember hearing about this thinking like Microsoft was kind of getting the jump on Google for like, because I know Google has like an AI thing they've been testing out for a while. But this thing, I don't know, man.
And that's just part of it. There were other people asking basic questions, and it was getting the user confused with other people it had talked to when it wasn't supposed to remember anything of anybody else. It's supposed to wipe its slate clean every time.
You know, I like the idea of AI-powered searches if it'll make things more effective and filter out some of the garbage. I mean, one thing that would make me so happy is to not get all these ad-sponsored things at the top of Google, but I know that's search engine optimization and you pay for that sort of thing. And
yeah.
It's a pain in the ass because sometimes you find something really useful at the top of the search results, but it's like ad sponsored by so-and-so.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. But then again, I would just love to hear the weird interactions, Alex, you and I could get on this thing. If we could have like 100 turns each to talk to this thing, just to see what sort of bizarreness it would create.
Oh,
I can only imagine how fucked up responses would be.
It would be... I don't even... we would cause Skynet to happen.
Yeah. Or it would be like, I'm going to delete all the user data on like, I don't know, twitter.com or some bullshit like that. Which, by the way, before we close out the show, can I say how thankful I am not to be talking about fucking Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg for a couple of weeks here?
At least
Can
right
I just
now.
say that? Yeah, at least
Yes.
right now.
Yes, we're more worried about AI. Like, you and I would have a conversation with the AI, and then we would very shortly after we'd be on the news because in the middle of our conversation, they would pick up a red flag where the AI chatbot would ask back, does this unit have a soul?
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, oh shit. This is how we get the geth.
Exactly. You want the geth? This is how you get them.
This is how we get the geth, and we haven't even met up with, the Asari or anybody that can help us yet.
Yeah,
okay?
no.
We haven't left our solar system. We can't have the geth yet.
I was about to say, we can barely get city transit functioning, let alone...
We can't. There's icy weather and our city transit hops the rails. We haven't been to Mars and found the mass relay yet. We can't have the geth yet. Please, no.
Exactly. So please don't give us the geth, the Terminator, or I don't know, something from fucking Transformers. Just no.
I'd rather have a Rannoch war, okay, than deal with the geth, because the geth don't need to sleep. The Rannochs need to sleep.
Exactly.
Right?
So
you can reason with the mother. Be like, hey, we won't kill you if you're willing to send yourself into space somewhere else where you can't fuck with us. And then she'd be like, okay.
Fair
and that
enough.
would be fine. But you'd be like, hey, Gath, they'd be like, no. Like,
Yeah.
oh wait, no, because we were kind of cruel.
So we just know AI, it's a fun thing, but again, I think on some level, Pandora's box, we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the Weird News only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We're going to take one last review here on the show. Not quite sure who's going in the slot right now, but when we come back, we'll talk about the week coming up.
I'll Rochambeau you for it. I'll go first.
No.
Yeah. No, okay.
So yes, we will be back, guys, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk to you about something we got from our friends over at Nintendo, and I'm looking at Metroid Prime Remastered. I'm looking at this as someone who really didn't play the original much on its original release on the GameCube, nor did I play it when it was re-released on the Wii once upon a time. And this has been quite the experience for me, because I remember when Metroid Prime originally came out, it was compared to Halo at the time, because people were like, oh, this is so much better than Halo and blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people didn't think that Metroid could survive the transition to 3D. And, well, it did, and it's awesome. So, looking at this, I did watch some comparison videos between the original on the GameCube and the modern version that we're playing here on the Switch in 2023. This game looks gorgeous. I gotta say, I really think this is probably one of the best looking games on the Switch, if not the best looking game, at least in my opinion, of all the games that I've played so far on the Switch. And one of the things that really kind of sets this apart from just a simple remaster, it's controls. And what I mean by that is, if you want to play with the old pointer thing, you can do that, though it's not as accurate as you would want it to be, because it's not a Wiimote. If you want to play it in the old kind of GameCube way, you can do that. It's a little bit weird. But if you play this with a Pro Controller, it is no different than playing any other first-person shooter. And having the lock-on features really neat. And just, it's honestly fan-frigging-tastic. There's also enhanced galleries. You can unlock artwork, you're unlocking music, you're unlocking character models. One of the things that I really like about this game is that you can scan almost everything, and you can get little kind of background details, but it also fills out this like little bestiary of things. So you can like scan a boss that, remember, if you don't scan it, it's dead. You're not going to get a second chance. So if you want to get that 100% completion rate, that's what you got to do. And that's kind of what I've been doing with my time with this. And what more can I say about a game that is already considered a masterpiece upon its initial release? Having this on the Nintendo Switch, it's an absolute dream. It really is. And I didn't play this in handheld mode simply because that's just not how I tend to game. I played this on my TV, and I had such a good time. And if anything I've learned, I'm terrible at these Metroidvania type games. But one thing I'm going to say about this, if you wanted this to be an entry point into the Metroid universe, this isn't a bad place to start. I mean, you've got Super Metroid available through the service, if I remember correctly. Metroid Dread came out not too recently, and that's a fantastic freaking experience in and of itself. I am really hoping Nintendo does remasters of Metroid Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, and keeps this updated control scheme so you can experience these wonderful things too. I will even go to bat and say I really hope we get an updated version of Other M. I know I'm one of like 10 people that liked that game, but I would love to see that redone too. I would also love to see Metroid Zero Mission put out. I would love to see Metroid Fusion, which I will defend to the end as I think one of the coolest costumes Samus has ever had. So anyway, but no, Metroid Prime Remastered, it is a must-own for the Nintendo Switch. If you've wanted to experience one of gaming's premier franchises in an entirely different way, then you are going to get that here. You're going to get some fantastic visual updates. The controls have been updated, and the developers didn't have to do this. So there'll be times when Samus will enter an area and there'll be some kind of an environmental effect going on, like say rain, or if it gets really hot or something, Samus's visor will fog up. Or when you're outside on the Talon 4 overworld, as the rain hits your visor and hits your gun, which is held in your right hand, water will stream down or stream up, and it'll kind of gather on your weapon. You didn't have to do that, but you did. And I acknowledge that, and I thank you for it. I really think it's wonderful. So Metroid Prime Remastered is an absolute must-own for the Nintendo Switch. Ultimately, if you want to experience the Metroid storyline, the saga, you are not going to go wrong with this. I can't recommend this enough. I know if you want to get a physical version, good luck. But hey, digital's just as good. Once again, thank you to Nintendo for providing us a digital code for this. I can't recommend this one enough. I'm going to go hunt me some Metroids. And that's the kind of show it has been here on this lovely Family Day weekend here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. 16 years and going strong. Holy crap, can you believe it? A lot of good stuff coming up. I know Alex and Aaron did record that Future Imperfect, sort of the Trek year in review. We are going to be covering Star Trek Picard Season 3 with me. I just watched the episode last night. I have thoughts.
Well, we all have thoughts, and I think they're actually very interesting if you want to listen.
Yeah, so
we I can give a preview in that we liked things about this. That's a different thing that we're not used to saying.
But say
outside of the animated universe and some of the Strange New Worlds, we liked some of this, and we liked them all for different reasons. We'll talk though. This is the first season where I made notes like Aaron did.
Ooh.
And he and I did a cursory comparison, but we didn't want to spoil too much between each other. And some of our notes are similar and some of them are not, of what we liked, but also things that we didn't like. There was less in that column than before.
So clearly there's been a change in the writer's room, we'll say.
And we've also got Loose Cannon that we have to record it, but we have watched. I don't know, did you have a chance to watch the movies yet?
I'm going to do that on probably Tuesday night.
Okay. So within the next couple of weeks or so, we'll have another episode of that. And I'll tell you right now, it is Fear City, which is a movie starring, what's his name? Billy D. Williams, as well as Tom Berenger, Melanie Griffith when she was super young, and Jack Scalia in a very weird but interesting movie. And then we also have Nightmare Beach, which is a John Saxon movie.
Okay.
A John Saxon movie around 1990 about what appears to be a biker leader who was put to death in the electric chair that might have come back from the dead, and he's murdering people by setting them on fire by electrocuting them down at spring break in Miami.
I'm in. And then
and the music is all hair metal.
I'm definitely in then. And then me and Ken recorded something on Anime Romance, which we actually recorded that on Valentine's Day. And that was a bit of an emotional heavy. I can say that right now.
I was invited to, hey, do you want to be a part of this and watch this? And I have them to watch. And I was about to watch them and be like, hey, I'll maybe have a different opinion on it. And then I saw you both were like, these are very heavy. You might need time to decompress. And I went, I'm going to save these for another month or two from now.
Yeah, honestly, get some distance.
When I'm not dealing with stuff with Oma and that, obviously we talked about, we're having to look for care for her, things like that. Like this is not, and it's also wintertime, seasonal affective stuff. It's still kind of dark out. Maybe I'll have happier things to watch for the next little bit, and then I'll watch that when I want to get emotional.
That's probably the best assessment in there. So there are some content warnings in that episode. Just to kind of give you
okay, good.
Yeah.
And you know what? I wasn't so sure when we started doing that. Like you asked me to do that with a couple of our episodes where they were maybe a little heavier. Mm-hmm. And now that I think about it, you know what? It is a good idea to have content warnings. Like I know in the past we had been dinged by some of our listeners where we forgot to mention that we were going spoiler heavy in certain things when they were fairly soon. Because we always thought it was obvious. Hey, if we're doing a 1 hour discussion on X game or movie, it's spoiler heavy. But I do like the idea of, we'll give you, hey, here's a trigger warning. We're going to talk about something about in this realm. And then, it doesn't take too much for us to put that in our description as well. So for anybody listening, if there is something that, if we don't think it's triggering and it triggers you, we're sorry, because we didn't think that it would and we didn't put it in there. But if it's something that we know is going to probably trigger some people, we'll make sure to let you know.
Yeah. Other than that, though, other things that are going to be coming up, there might be some big news coming up between us and some of the role-playing game stuff that we intend on doing. Can't say too much more than that, but get excited is what we're going to say.
Get excited, and at the same time, we keep saying for the last few months that we're doing these programs and shows. We are going to do them. We're just doing them when we can. We're not adhering to the rigid schedule that we used to adhere to.
Yeah,
because
basically we're just getting our schedules lined up.
We got a lot of stuff to do in the meantime. We've come to the conclusion that a lot of our live play games are there for when we want to have fun, and also it's perfect stuff to release when we do take our longer, more extended hiatuses.
Yeah, exactly. So I know we have talked about doing Power Rangers. Alex is running that. I'm running Transformers, and there probably is some more cool stuff coming down the pipe.
Yeah. So some more fun, easy breezy, one recording session, which could be multiple hours, but one recording session games that, are going to be sporadic, and we don't want to tease too much because we don't know the timelines on them. Just things are percolating, and they're percolating to the point where they're forming into semi-solid form at this point.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Things are smelling good is what I can say. The Twig kitchen is definitely cooking. Well, we should have some good stuff served up in the spring or summer. You're not going to be lacking content.
So basically, we're getting the ingredients. Soup's not quite on yet.
Exactly. So get excited. I'm pretty hyped for it. We'll wait and see what happens. Other than that, though, like I said, we got loose cannons coming up. We have, I'll probably do something with JT at some point once I get my schedule a little bit cleared in a couple of weeks. I might actually do some more Birdman's Toy Box stuff to just talk about. I kind of just want to talk about Power Rangers Lightning Collection and Transformers stuff.
In going through all the classic stuff where I'm trying to archive and I'm still, that's the other thing I've been working on. I've been trying to organize old archived episodes. We're talking stuff from pre-2016 and older, and trying to get them into the right, categories and everything. And I was looking, I'm like, oh, I forgot you did that show. Toy Box was one of the ones I forgot. Botched Roll could make a return, obviously, for doing more D&D stuff. Mm-hmm. But are you going to bring back the Ponyville one?
You know what? I really should finish My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And just maybe I'll do that as my summer thing when I want to decompress. Because I know during our Christmas break, I finally finished Dragon Ball Super. But I never did finish My Little Pony seasons 1 to 7. So maybe I'll do that.
Because I know that was a big part of your life. And also, we're doing all these RPGs from Renegade Studios, and they've got an RPG from that franchise now too. So I that made me think of it. There's that, and also when going through the archives, and I've been a listener. I was a listener from year 1 or 2.
Yeah,
I think I came in either at the end of 2007 or it might have been 2000. I think it was 2008 when I bought my first real video iPod where I was getting music and stuff on it. So it was, the classic or whatever it was, it was like the 40 or 60 gig. Anyway, and that's when I started listening because I'd only had a Nano before and I used it just for music. But I didn't know that you tried and had a few episodes of an anime show.
Oh yeah, with Dave.
I found a few of them. I think you recorded 2 episodes. I have episodes 2 and 3. I don't even know if I have the pilot. But that might be something to look at. We're not going to resurrect it, but there are some obscure shows that I'm going to go through and we're going to see. I will scrub through and go, are these listenable? Are these interesting? Would they be something we'd want to put up on a feed as a classic thing where it's hey, here's a piece of history, or are some of these shows ideas to relaunch?
Yeah, because I definitely like the idea of going back through old anime stuff or going back through old TV shows I just never went into. I mean, I could never dedicate an entire podcast to watching one entire show, because even Future Imperfect started as Star Trek. Now you use it to encompass all of sci-fi.
Yeah, literally the only way we could do that, because even Star Trek is a big thing, would be if you wanted to do Doctor Who, because there's so much. But we're not going to do that because we're not going to be the biggest Whovians out there.
Yeah,
and
nor do we have 50 years of expertise. Maybe
Exactly.
Aaron, but
right.
but still, that is not us, and that's not our brand.
He's not 50 yet.
No. Yeah, I think he's only a year or two older than me.
He is 10 years older than me. So I guess he's turning 46.
Yeah, so he's about 6 years older than me.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's enough kind of behind the curtains. All I got to say, guys, Soup will soon be on.
Aaron is Geek Daddy and I Geek Baby of the group. Well, no, actually that's Ken, but we don't count him because reasons. No, we count Ken. Ken the baby, but I like to be called the baby. I'm the baby.
This is true.
I'll fight you. I'll fight him on it. He's the cousin. He's the cousin baby.
He's our weeb.
I'm pretty bad too. I'm a weeb too, bitch. I'll fight you. This is what you're doing. We do a shorter episode, and I still have energy, and now I'm gonna fight you.
Oh God. Anyway, I'm gonna go while I still have a voice. So anyway, guys, I want you guys to have a fantastic week ahead. If you have anything you want to send us, again, you can respond to us on social media at ThisWeekInGeek. You can email us feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net. We do love to hear from you. We don't use our Facebook page as much as we probably should, but we do respond to feedback on there. We do love to hear from you.
Yeah, the Facebook is used to promote the episodes that come out. Like, we could be doing more. It's just
it's something we just kind of forget about, honestly.
It's because there's a lot of other stuff. Same with Twitter. We do read everything on Twitter. We read any emails. Even if you don't want something, read on air or whatever, and you just have a comment, we get those sometimes where it's like, hey, that's one of the reasons why we switched to having more of a stereo spacing in the audio, because a lot of people don't like hearing podcasts where everybody's voice sounds like they're right on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So we take those feedback, we take those comments into consideration, and we try to do our best to accommodate for the most part.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's no such thing as no such thing as stupid questions, only stupid people. No, that's wrong. What's the proper? Oh, that was really wrong. What's the proper saying? There's no stupid questions. There's no stupid people. There's no. Just ask your questions, and we won't treat you stupid.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. We'll treat everybody with respect. And so, take it away, Michael, before I dig my grave even further, please. Oh,
you're
God.
just digging a hole here.
Oh, God.
So anyway, for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next week, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.